Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Winmau TV. And here we are for the World Grand Prix of Darts preview. And of course, we've got the two number one pundits in the world. We've got the asset Paul Nicholson and Mark Webster joining us. Gentlemen, how are we?
Not too bad.
I was going to let you go first. I'm not too bad myself. Looking forward to the Grand Prix. So, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I think with the Grand Prix, lads, I think you and I both know, Mark, that it's just a little bit different. I remember the time when you told me you practiced on tops for about a month straight going into it. And it just does challenge the players, doesn't it? From a different angle. And I always used to love playing this event. I love double start darts. I don't think we play enough of it. But I'm really excited to see how people adapt to it, because there's quite a few debutants and there's a lot of experienced guys who are under a certain question mark. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, you go, Phil.
No, I was going to say, as players, do you have to approach this with a different mindset? Obviously, you've both played in it, both had success in it. Is it just a completely different mindset you have to approach this with?
Yeah, I think, I don't know about Paul, I'm sure he'll agree, but when you're in the back room, it's, say, like me and Paul in the same session of Blackpool back in the day, Ali Pally, you'd practice different things, but you just absolutely batter doubles. That's what I did anyway. And you've just got to have a decision or a plan. My plan was tops and 14s. On the times I did well there, or 10s, I literally had, they were my three. And if I slipped in double one now and then or something like that, I'd take it. But you don't want to start spraying. That's when you get a bit desperate. You've seen a bit of petulance sometimes when players just chuck at the ball. Well, just don't do it. You're still always in a leg on double start. You've only got to look at Mark Dudbridge with Andy Jenkins, haven't you? I'll remind Jenks that every year. But yeah, you just got to have a plan, and and stating the obvious, you've got to get in quite sharp. It's getting early in your first leg, and it does wonders for you in the game.
First round as well, absolute cutthroat in this. Obviously, they've always said get past round one and you build into tournaments, but this one, especially being only best of three in the first round, Paul, what's the pressure like going into those games?
I think the interesting thing is, if you look at one of the games in round one, which is Gerwyn Price against Jamil Wattimena, I expect Wattimena to come out hot and to try and get that first set. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did. If you do get that first set, or if you lose it, you have that small break after set one to try and gather yourself together. I remember my best game against Thornton, where I won 2-1 and I averaged almost 100 for the game. And I think if we didn't have a break in the game, I would have lost it 2-0. But Robert won the first set 3-2. Then I won the next two sets after that small break. It really did help reset my goals. That being said, it is very cutthroat. It's a small format, and it is going to really help the guys who've got experience of this before, in my opinion. The debutants are going to have to hit the ground running, and they're going to have to maintain intensity after a short break as well. I think that's one of the cachets about the World Grand Prix for me. I really like the fact that it's a different format and it's cutthroat at the same time. That's what makes it so exciting.
Obviously, the draw has thrown up some absolute barnstormers in round one. We're going to run through them all in a minute, or most of them. But I've never known a first round draw like this, Webby. Is this arguably the best World Grand Prix we've ever seen?
It is. It simply is. The draw is absolutely brutal, and you look at like all those big games, and you kind of look at Kim Ibex's Brendan Dolan, and they're thinking, well, hang on, there's pressure here now, because they've sort of, particularly Kim, he hung on for his spot, but that's a good draw for both of them when you've got these games like Cross and Anderson, Durrant and v Chisler was a semi last year flying around, Van Gerwen and Ratajski, so you kind of go under the radar, your games like Johnny Clayton v Ian White and things like that, but there's opportunities there for everyone now, whether you had a bad draw or not, because you win that opening game for Rob Cross or Gary Anderson, or those ties that we call real standout, it does wonders for you going forward, and it's going to be a great draw. That's the perk of the 8 seeds, isn't it? You're not protecting those 16, and I like it. What is it? Van Gerwen's drawn Ratajski, and he's drawn number 10 in the world. So it's just it aims for that, and I think I'd like to see it a bit more often. The 8 seeds, it just makes the draw a bit more intense from the start.
Well, you touched on it there, Webby. We'll come on to the world number one and the number one seed, Michael Van Gerwen. There's some question marks, isn't there? We've seen moments of genius from him recently, and we've also seen some mediocrity stuff as well. Whereabouts is he, and will this game sharpen him, or would he have wanted one of the easier ties in round one?
Oh, there's no question. He wanted an easier game than this.
Yeah.
I mean, this
I agree with Paul.
This is awful for him. I mean, I'm not sure it could have got worse. Ratajski has been on form for 2 years, and watching him lately, he's not bothered by anything. He's almost bulletproof. And Van Gerwen is going to be thinking, what do I have to do to beat this guy? I've got to play well. There is huge pressure on him to perform here in this cutthroat format. Admittedly, he does have 5 titles in the bank, and he wants a 6th. So I think the pressure is huge, not just from himself, but from the media as well. So I'll be really intrigued to see what MVG turns up, because I think to categorise his form, it has been erratic. I think that's the right word. There have been some good stuff, good games from Michael, but too often there are games which he's there for the taking, and if he has one of those, then Ratajski's going to be too good for him.
Where are you, Webby, on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Paul. It's not a nice tie for Mike, and he's at a point in his career now where questions are being asked. But I've said it all early on this week. I spoke to a few guys. I think he's entitled to this blip because he's been the world number 1 since 2012. He's carried that pressure for 9 years. And the other players will be enjoying this now, but it's their job to jump on it because he ain't going to keep playing like this. I'm not saying he's going to win the Grand Prix or win the Europeans, or I don't know when he's going to come out of this, but he will come out of it. And I think we spoke, good thing is he's got Vinny around him. We know Vinny tells it how it is, and he's read Michael's some own truths. Look, you need to be a bit more dedicated, maybe took your foot off the gas, got a bit, Vinny will tell it, and you need friends like that. It's no point people just saying, yeah, you'll be fine the next tournament if he doesn't believe it himself. And the Ratajski draw is not ideal, but he was never going to get anything too, like you said, Phil, the format is as good as best of 11 legs in a way, isn't it? So, yeah, it's a short format, but, it's there. It's a challenge for Michael now. Every game is a challenge, and this is no different.
Both of you on the spot. Does he come through this challenge?
Go on, Paul.
Nice work. Just before I do pipe for that, I just want to make the point that nobody in form right now, or anybody within the tour card system, knows what it's like to be world number 1. Not one player has had that accolade. The last person before Phil Taylor to be world number 1, I believe, was Colin Lloyd. We're talking a long time ago. So the responsibility of, what Mark was saying about, the pressure of being world number 1, he is used to that. This is a different pressure. Nobody knows what it's like to be in Michael's shoes. So nobody's got the right to criticize him. So I think we should give him a bit of credit. But I'm going to go for Ratajski. I really do think that he is in a good place. He'll start 16s. He'll probably switch to 19s on second dart if he gets a first start out. And I think he's going to fancy this, probably, win against MVG more than ever. And I think Ratajski might edge it 2-1.
I'm going the opposite way. I just think Mike can't keep losing, and I think it's a good draw for him in a way because he's not going to get lax with this draw, is he? He's going to have to work hard and practice for this game, that is for sure. And he's going to have to go up there with a plan. He's been playing nervily. He's been playing, I don't know, unconfidently. His confidence isn't there, but there has been glimpses and a little purple patch, which he has been having now and then. We'll see him pull away in this match, and I think there's a bit of pressure on Ratajski because I think his people with him are saying, "You'll have him here. This is the time to play him." But someone's going to cop it, and I think Ratajski's going to cop it. So I'm not saying Van Gerwen's going to want to win the event, but I think he gets by Christoph Ratajski.
Before we go on to the next game, I just want to go back to what you said, Paul, about the pressure. Obviously, Peter Wright, world champion. Is there more pressure being world number 1 for such a sustained period than being world champion for a year?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking, 7 years he's been world number 1? Pretty much. That's a long time. And he's won 3 world titles in that time. And he's had the pressure of, he's never defended the world championship. Everything that is thrown at him, he takes on the chin and he still comes back for more. He could have, made millions of pounds in this game and said, this pressure's too much for me. I can't be bothered with it. But he handles it with grace, with class, and continues to try his best. Nobody knows what it's like. Michael will have to tell you at some point, Phil. He'll probably have to tell us at some point on a televised match. He might not want to tell anybody. He might not want to let that secret go. But it can't be simple. It can't be easy.
Another Winmau player that's in a rich vein of form right now is Danny Noppert, playing Ryan Searle in round 1. And obviously Danny's got different pressures as well. At the moment, he's in the prime spot to partner Michael van Gerwen at the World Cup, but played some really good stuff, Webby, in this period, as Noppy.
Yeah, he's a good player and he's a nice lad as well. And unfortunately, he will fall into that bracket when this draw's talked about. Who's going to talk about Danny Noppert? And that's no disrespect to Danny, but he likes that. He's so quiet. You don't see a great deal of him. But he had a good match play. Beat Gerwyn Price. He pushed Adrian Lewis well. He probably just fell a bit flat in the middle part of that game. And he's had that run to the World Series of Darts final. But I think for Noppy now, he's got to get into those big money jumps. Like in the World Championship, he had Kim Ibrex didn't have that where he gets it to like 25 grand. And that's why he's not touching the top 16 yet. So different pressures, like you said, Phil. He's aiming for the top 16. I think he'll do okay in Dublin. I think he'll beat Ryan. But it's that next step where, like I said, the World Cup, I think he makes that anyway. But I think he's looking top 16. He's got to go to the next level now, Danny. And that's the challenge for him now going forward.
Concur, Paul?
I absolutely concur with what Mark just said. I think there may be pressure on Danny to do better than Jermaine at this event to try and get that spot. He's just had 10,000 points come off his ranking because of his solitary PDC title 2 years ago. So that hasn't helped his cause. But I think, not to fluff Mark's pillow a bit too much, I think he's almost got to do what Mark did at the best part of his PDC career. He's got to start making the quarters all the time on the telly. He's got to make big runs in the Worlds. He's got to make the quarters and the semi-finals and the odd final in majors. And that's what's going to make your ranking so much better. He's great on the floor. He's great on the European Tour. That's a nut he has cracked. But aside from those successes, if he can start doing it on TV as well, we are looking at a top 10 guy because he's strong up here and he's got a bit of grit about him as well. Look at his face sometimes when he's in a really important quarterfinal in the European Tour. He's willing to go a little bit deep and, screw that face up a bit and get a bit aggressive. And I like that. I think that he's got a lot to give.
Another real intriguing match from a Winmau point of view. It's Merv King against James Wade. Now, we haven't seen a lot of Merv. Reappears on the European Tour at the weekend, shifted some weight, looked good for it. And he was doing bits again, was Merv. And this will be one where they'll fancy Mervyn to beat James.
But it's like James same age as me, but it's like an old school game, isn't it? And it's bear in mind that Merv did a job on him last year in the second round as well. So I'm full of admiration for both the players, really. They're probably, you're never going to be your players who get picked for a wild card because they just get on with the game. They've always earned their Premier League spots or things on merit in the way they play. And I wasn't at all surprised that Merv did what he had to do in the Euro Tour last week. He's just a solid player. He's so dedicated. I mean, Paul will back me up. He'll be on the afternoon session of a European Tour, for example. He'll be in there practicing when he's due on like 9 o'clock at night. He doesn't sit in his room, lays about. If he's got nothing to do, he gets on the ball. And it's reaped his rewards. And like he said, he's been doing a bit of work while he's been away as well, just to occupy the mind. And good on him. I like Merv. He's dedicated, very serious, but no, he's reaped the rewards. He's done really well out the game. Probably should have a few more major titles. He's probably fluffed his lines on a few occasions, but still having that hunger to keep going and going is full of admiration. It's a great game, and it's, do you know what, you're going to put me on the spot who to pick on it, but I wouldn't like to. I'm going to go just about James because I thought he was good last week, especially the shenanigans he had getting there as well. But it's a great game, and it's one of those games that'll go under the radar, but I'm looking forward to it.
Paul, obviously you played golf with Mervyn a lot.
I'm not going to disagree with Mark there, but I think that whoever wins this game has got a huge chance of making the final. I was thinking about this a lot a couple of days ago when we were coming back from the European Tour event, and I thought to myself, this is the kind of game that Merv can get his teeth into early. He's a great double start player. He's one of the best in the world. He's done it many times. The fact that he's only made the one final is quite astounding, if you ask me. But this is an awful draw for James. He's won it a couple of times, of course, and he's always going to be good because he has a specific game plan, which is what you need. But Mervyn's looking good at the minute, and he's going to feel like it's a free hit. He wasn't in this event a week ago. Now he is. And he's going to think, all right, let's make the most of it then. And if he needs a new motorbike or if he wants a different car, I'm talking about both of them because they both like the machines, then you can watch out. I think earlier in the week, I pitched for a Mervyn King-Peter Wright final, which I would love to see. But if Mervyn loses to James, there's every chance that James makes the final for me.
Nice. Another Winmau player that's used lockdown well and come back into some form after disappointing Premier League. Super Chim, Darryl Gurney, at the weekend was probably the best I've seen his throw and all-round demeanour on a stage for quite some time. Obviously, Paul, you were there. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, I would actually. During the Premier League, there were a few things that were a bit rusty. The release of the dart was a bit late. He was going under that 60 and under that 57 a bit too much, which was very eloquently put by the Sky Sports team. And I just get the feeling that he's done enough work. He's not the kind of person who does the amount of practice like Mervyn King. He's someone who prides himself on resting and then playing a lot of games. That gets him in shape. That's what Simon Whitlock has done a lot over the last 10 years. But there were a lot of things to admire at the weekend. He didn't win the tournament. He didn't defend his title. But at the same time, when you looked at the technique, you looked at the mindset, he looked pretty sharp. He looked ready to come into this. And we all know that Darryl Gurney plays well in the autumn. Look at when he won his majors. This time of year, October, November. So the fact that he is coming into this game against Joe Cullen as the 7th seed, and he's in the bottom half, away from all of that messiness at the top, could go far.
Obviously, Mark, you're close to Joe as well. We've seen him flatter to deceive at some points, and I mean that in the nicest respect, because he'll go and average 107 and then doesn't quite back it up next game. He's close though, isn't he? I know you spend a lot of time with him and talk to him an awful lot.
Yeah, we talk a lot, and I say to him, look, I can't get my head around what goes on with you, because his A game's fantastic. His B game's getting better now, and that's what he needs to improve on. I think I was impressed with him in the match play, because I know he lost to Dimitri in the second round, but the first round he's DNY. That game was just was drifting away from him. He was missing big shots, but he dug in there. It was a game I don't associate Joe winning. When it gets messy, he kind of loses, but he won on that occasion, and you can see what it meant to him. And like you said, he's been impressive since. And it's a real good game in the sense that I like watching both players play. Joe just gets on with it. Darryl is just a hard-working player. I think what Paul mentioned, I think it was key he survived elimination in the Premier League just to get those matches, get some match practice. And it's a close one. I mean, based on Darryl being the higher ranked and just the way he's played this weekend, I'm going to punt for Darryl, but I'd like Joe to prove me wrong. He needs a good run on the TV again, because we haven't seen a great deal since that match play one. But you know, the guy can play, and he can play at a stupid standard when he's on form. And he always seems relaxed, but you just don't know what you're going to get with Joe. So it's a tough ask for him against Darryl.
No, agreed. Looking at the bottom half of the draw for Team Winmau as well, Brendan Doan against Kim Huybrechts. Real intriguing game for both players here. And Brendan's quietly gone about his business this year.
This is what Brendan...
Yeah. Right? Sorry, Paul.
Brendan,
the camera's on me, so I thought it was going to be me.
Brendan's not the kind of player that goes around and, you know, advertises how great he's playing. He's old school. And everybody seems to forget that he won a couple of titles last year. And when Kim Huybrechts saw this draw, he'll have thought, no, that's bad. Because he's going to have extra time at the back of the stage. Brendan's going to take his time. He's going to be good. And Dolan having that semi-final at the Autumn Series, I think it was important for him because he hadn't had a big result for a while. There were some ups and downs during the Summer Series and previously in 2020. So it was important for him to get a bit of a confidence boost. Yes, he lost to Ratajski, but that was a very tough match. Going forward, I think Brendan will feel very comfortable with this draw. It could have been a lot worse for him, but I think it's all about what Brendan does in this match. Huybrechts is currently testing a lot of different kits after leaving a certain manufacturer, and I'm not sure he's 100% on what he's using, so it does depend on his comfort. Brendan knows what he's using. He knows he's comfortable with this format, and that's why I think he'll win this match.
Mark, for you?
Yeah, I agree with Paul. I think Brendan will win. He's just I like Brendan, but I hate playing him. He's an absolute nightmare to play against, and he just does his own thing. And like what Paul said there, he'll keep Kim waiting. He's not slow play getting his darts on the board. He's just got a setup, a technique. And like you said, he's got to the final of this before. I know it was in Dublin, but yeah, I just think like he's gone under the radar. And Kim Huybrechts, whilst will be happy to be in there, really did. He's hung on to his spot. Brendan's had his spot for a while, and I just I just don't see anything but Brendan winning.
Again, looking at the 16 ties, have you guys got a standout that we haven't spoke about that you really like the look of? We'll start with you first, Webby.
I like the Anderson Cross game. I know you've got Durran and Chizzy, but I just think Anderson's just a joy to watch at the minute. Again, I watched the Premier League, and you know the setup is still. You can look over the balcony, and you could see he was relaxed, chilled, but he was practicing, stopping. And when he lost, sometimes Gary can be a bit too smiley, but he was coming off. He had the ump, and I like to see that. And it's good to have him back, but he's back with a bit of hunger about him now as well. And he's obviously a family man now. He cherry picks where he goes. He's earned that right. He didn't go to the autumn series, fair enough. We're still going to see the major events. I don't think they're going to cost him. So, yeah, I do particularly look forward to that. And on the plus side, Rob Cross playing better, which is nice. So that runs the final of the World Series. So, yeah, that's the game for me I'm looking forward to.
Paul?
Well, can't go any further than De Sousa Peterson, can you? What a game that is. I mean, some of our colleagues on the European tour were saying if there's no miscount in that game, we'll be astounded. There could be some incredible ways of starting. There could be some amazing finishing because these guys, I think Devon's very conventional. We know that De Sousa is not. So we all want to leave 120 and try and hit 3 double tops because that's just what he does. But I want to see how Peterson, the hot shot right now, because he's like lava. That's how hot he is. But coming into this alien format that he hasn't got any experience of, I want to know where he starts. I want to know how he adapts to mid-visit scoring after hitting a double to start. I want to see where he goes. I want to see how much work he's done to get to that point. And if he's as comfortable with double start as he is with straight start, then De Sousa's got all sorts of issues.
Again, one player that got in just or left it late was the Ferret, Mark. What a run he had at the weekend. Has he rekindled a little bit of passion? Because he drifted a little bit in the world rankings, but he looked hungry again at the weekend. Well, as hungry as Johnny can, obviously. But again, it's a nice tie for him in round 1 against Ian White. Yeah,
it is. And Johnny's never won in Dublin, and he's never won in Blackpool. So he's just exiting these major events at the first round. That's got to stop. And the draw is good for him. It's a good draw for Ian White as well, but Ian White sort of was up and was rattled by things last week. I don't think he was very happy. I think there's a bit of a thing on social media about his game with Max Hot, but go on, you've got to get on with it. It's a tough game for both. Johnny's in good form, but I do get concerned of how he is on the stage. He was awful against Stephen Bunting last year, but I know how he can play. I mean, Paul, like myself, we've been covering the home tour, and Johnny probably could have just relaxed, not played it, but he's eager to play. And he's chucking his name in, and he's playing really well, Phil. And I just think he's got to be a bit more decisive than he was last year. But yeah, he's in the better form, and I expect him to finally break his duck at this event.
An intriguing one, the last one of the individual games we'll cover. There's a lot on the line for this one. Is Adrian Lewis against Chris Dobey. Adrian just clinging on to his position in the top 16, with Chris chasing that position in the top 16. This is set up to be one of those sub-stories and subplots to the draw that many people will have forgotten, Paul.
Yeah, very much so. I think this is an awful draw for Lewis. We know that his autumn series was pretty forgettable, and it didn't go very well in the European Tour event as a seed either. So when you look at this against someone who's made the semi-finals at pretty much the beginning of their career in the Grand Prix, well, Dobey is just awful for Lewis. Dobey's going to fancy this big time. He's going to want to put Lewis away. It could be the time where Lewis goes out the top 16 again, and he's then in recovery mode. And is he in good enough form to bounce back immediately like he was the last time? I'm not so sure. But Dobey, with his double start experience, he's played a lot of it growing up. And as he got better, he was constantly doing this format. He's so comfortable with it. And we know that Adrian is too, but there's a very big difference between the form of the two and the confidence of the two. It was probably very important for Dobey to exit the event in Germany just gone with a great game. He made one mistake in that match. One. So if he'd had a bad game, I would have probably piped for Adrian Lewis. But because he played well and only made one error in this cutthroat format, I think this is going to go deep. I think it will be 2-1, but I'm going to go for Dobey in a last leg shootout.
Oh, love that. Right, guys, it's getting to that time where I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm I'm going to ask you for finalists and winner of the 2020 BoyleSports World Grand Prix. Webby, you first.
Oh, I've said, I'm not going to go for finalists, but I said I think the winner will come from either Gerwin Price or Peter Wright. But then I did say surprise run Devon Peterson. He could win it, and I generally think that. He's not just crept in, he's in ridiculous form, where when he loses, it's 100 average. When he wins, it's 100 average. He has found the level. But I think I'm going for Price or Wright, and then maybe Devon to cause a bit of a shock as well.
Paul?
I'm going for Peter Wright to win it. I've said that all week long. I'm not going to change my mind. And he's going to beat Mervyn in the final.
Like that, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to spend time in your company talking about darts. That's another preview done and dusted here on Winmau TV. Of course, subscribe to all Winmau social handles. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. Mark, I shall see you in Coventry. And Paul, no doubt we should be talking on social media about the darts as it happens. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time as always.
Cheers, Phil. Thank you.